Train yourself to let go of everything you fear to lose.
Stellaris Shadows of the Shroud is bringing a lot of new content to the game. Today we're going to be looking at the end of the cycle, the new origin Endbringers that pushes you straight into the end of the cycle Covenant, the remaining civics, and an addition to Subterfuge, which is Proxy Wars. We already heard about Proxy Wars last week by looking at one of the live streams, but now we've got quite a bit more detail on how they work. Before we delve in and find out what's new in Stellaris, don't forget, if you enjoy this video and you'd like to support this channel and also pick up something from the Paradox Interactive store where they sell Steam keys for basically all of their games and DLC, you can do so using our link down in the description below, or head over to the Paradox Interactive store and use the code MONTUPLAYS at the checkout. The Endbringers are a challenging and yet doomed origin. A mysterious calamity turned a neighbouring planet into a shrouded world, and your people have been cursed with a sense of foreboding and growing paranoia ever since. It's not yet your time, but it could be. Let's start by reading through the flavour text we have here. So, we are the harbingers of cataclysm. During the dawn of our civilization, a mysterious calamity befell our nearest celestial neighbour. Its sudden and brutal transformation filled the night skies with a malevolent purple light, stirring within our people a dread that we will one day suffer a similar fate. With each passing generation, the suffocating fear of potential annihilation tightened its grip upon us. Now, as we take to the stars, we are drawn to explore this shrouded world. The answers we have craved for centuries are tantalizingly within reach. Still, many among us warn that our obsessive fascination with the source of this destructive power may ultimately lead to our own end. Soon enough, we will lift the final veil. So what does this origin do for us? Well, first we do have to note that this is a challenging origin. It also blocks every single ascension path except for the psionic ascension. That does make sense given this is an end of the cycle origin. We will start with some penalties. We will have the paranoia modifier, which does seem to reduce our happiness. However, each chamber of silence reduces negative effects by 10%. So I'll have to assume if we can get 9 chambers of silence, we'll reduce that negative effect by the maximum of minus 90%, as most reduction modifiers cap out at minus 90. It's also noted here that your Empire's paranoia grows over time up to a maximum of 50%. I'm assuming that is minus 50% happiness, which is quite a lot. Minus 50% happiness is almost entirely difficult to offset and deal with. The Endbringer's origin soon allows you to discover an archaeological site at the Shrouded World that will provide few answers but will guide you towards your new dark patron. As a madness-consumed doomsday cult, your journey through psionic ascension will differ a little more from the more conventional path. No ascension perk is needed for them to pursue psionic ascension. The decision was already made for you a long time ago. We can see here Realm of Madness is an event that fires, giving us, well, it seems a bad modifier. We get the psionic tradition tree, but we get madness. Minus 15 stability, plus 20% pop upkeep, and 25% pop amenities usage. Each chamber of silence reduces the negative effects of this by 10%. So chambers of silence sound like they will be essential to offsetting the negative modifiers we are getting here. Looking at the central part of this image, you can see the psionic ascension situation is quite different to the normal situation we have seen so far. Here we have 3 approaches: Watch and Wait, Blind the Willing, and Forsake Flesh. Forsaking Flesh means we will lose 25 pops every single month. That is quite a lot. We'll also get plus 200% monthly unity, plus 100% situation speed, and 10 monthly Zro. I'm assuming that's because we are, converting people into Zro or something like that. blind the willing. I'm not sure what that does. Maybe that slows it down. That would normally be what we'd see from a situation like this. Looking all the way to the right at lobotomy reports, there's apparently some sort of voice deep in the heads of our people. This voice is a presence, and it's not so nice. This event here means we can either choose to let the weak do what they must, and they are self-lobotomizing, it seems, or ban self-lobotomy because the voice in your mind is a gift. The psionic ascension situation would advance here, but you would get plagued by the voices, giving you minus 10% resources for 5 years. Nasty. It's also noted just below this image in the dev diary that your Psi-Core buildings in the tradition tree are replaced with chambers of silence. So in essence, the chamber of silence is very useful and important for you because it's going to be helping you out with reducing those negative modifiers, but it's also your Psi-Core building, so it's even more powerful. Here you can see that it basically does the same thing as the Psi-Core building. It gives you some stability and some telepath jobs. It also reduces the negative effects of paranoia and madness, as we've seen so far, by 10%. Interestingly, it seems from this image, and given the fact we haven't heard anything else mentioning this, the telepaths no longer provide increased resource output from jobs, or at least the tooltip isn't telling us they do. If they do, no one has told us that they are continuing to get that bonus so far, so that would be a massive nerf to telepaths if that is the case. Our entry into the Shroud, though, as you can see from the image on the right, is, well, it's a little bit different given that we have already been claimed. Our souls may not really be our own. And if you're enjoying this video, please claim the soul of that like button. Once we get into the Shroud, we're greeted with a rather pretty sight. We're going to meet a cataclysmic entity who is saturated in the inevitability of the aura of the end. A perfectly silent galaxy awaits. One without the voice, I'm going to assume, because at that point we will not have to listen to it anymore, maybe? I'm not entirely sure. Right, so forming this covenant changes the conventional Shroud UI to a ticking clock. This clock counts down the moments until the end of your story. We've seen this image before, but now we have more information. First off, we have the aura of the end here. That's giving minus 18 stability, plus 36%, I believe that's upkeep from jobs, and plus 15, I think that's basically a 15% reduction to ship fire rate. Also, it's granting you plus 100% resource output from jobs, or perhaps that is job efficiency instead, and if I'm right about that symbol, a minus 30% job upkeep. We have 8 different powers at our disposal. Let's find out a little more about what they all do. As the cycle progresses, you will gain more Covenant powers, including some that will let you stall for time. There are powers that reduce the end of the cycle situation progress, but they can only be used once per game. While the end is patient, it is relentless. Okay, so we've actually got a ton to look at in this image. This is one big image of basically all of the different Shroud powers, the situation, and the aura of the end. Let's dive through. So, end of the cycle situation. It's a little small, all of this. You might not be able to read it properly. I will be reading out as much as I can so you don't have to use your eyeballs unless you really, really want to. Our covenant with the end of the cycle grants us untold power and tasks us with glorious purpose. We are filled with glorious purpose. It's going to be great. The will of our patron demands complete annihilation of this entire reality. With each system the aura of the end consumes, the closer merciful oblivion comes to pass. So basically, this is like a player crisis, but you're starting off as a crisis right from the start of the game, or at least that is my reading on this. Once we get to the end of the situation, the reckoning awaits. In regards to our approach, we can either bring on the inevitable, stall for time, or delay our destiny. Bring on the inevitable seems to give you plus 100% psionic aura intensity gain, which means the aura of the end will get more intense more quickly. The aura of the end here seems to also actually consume systems. I assume that basically destroys the planets, the stars, everything in them, similar to a star eater. That's going to be my assumption, though maybe it just turns everything into a shrouded world. Aura effects become more powerful as intensity level increases. It grants mining station output, research station output, ship upkeep reduction, and resource from jobs increase. The hostile effects here are monthly hull damage to non-orbiting ships, decreased stability, and upkeep from jobs increase. So having the aura of the end in your system is very annoying. You can only hope and pray you've got access to Mind Warden technologies, and you can put on a Shroud seal if you're trying to fight this thing. Otherwise, I'm guessing if you're the end of the cycle, you'll want to be deleting any Shroud seals or Mind Warden enclaves you come across. I'm going to read through the powers now. There are 8 of them, and I'm going to go through them in the order they appear on our Atomic Doomsday clock. That means the order they are unlocked in. The first power that we will gain is Creation. For the cost of just 10,000 energy credits, we will create an entire Gaia world with 1,000 pops in our capital system. I'm assuming we can use this repeatedly. So we can get more and more pops, more and more power. Don't forget, pops equal economy, and economy is power. Then we have Annihilation. We can throw 9,000 of each basic resource plus 9,000 more alloys into the void, into oblivion, into the maw, and thus reduce the end of the cycle situation progress by 60. Given that we can see on the image to the left that situation progress goes up by 1 every month, that is basically 5 years worth of progress we get back. Fractalization here is the next Covenant power. Our research station output and mining station output within our psionic aura get plus 100%. That costs 5,000 energy. Not sure that will be worth it until we have a very large empire though. Maybe it lasts forever, or maybe it's on a timer. Then we have Extermination. Pops killed throughout owned colonies, 3,000. So we sacrifice 3,000 of our own pops. 1,000 of that could be from the creation power earlier, and we gain 120 more progress time. That is 10 more years before the end of the cycle will arrive. Distortion is the first power on the top right. That means each of our fleets can hyperjump at twice the range without suffering negative effects for the next 2 years. 15,000 energy credits cost. 2 years isn't very long. I assume we can activate this repeatedly, though I'm not sure how long the cooldown will last. After that we have Destruction. An owned colony with at least 1,500 pops becomes a shrouded world. If we can't choose which colony this is, that would be terrifying, to lose your most prosperous colony basically based on an RNG roll. That would be very bad. But if we can pick a colony, maybe we can build a habitat, move over 1,500 pops that we're purging, and then gain 15 more years of end of the cycle situation progress. Next we have Intensification. This increases psionic aura intensity gain by 50 and disables all Shroud seals in the galaxy for 3 years. Which could be very nice. That means you can get your aura to spread out, it seems, without needing to do anything about the Shroud seals. You can just envelop them. Nothing can stifle the inevitability of the aura of the end. The last power here is Eradication. You will declare war with a total war goal against all non-fallen empires. This gives you 20 more years to complete the end of the cycle, and it allows you to eradicate everyone else in the galaxy. Excellent. Absolutely bloody excellent. What we're basically going to be doing here is working for the end of the cycle and attempting to blanket enough of the galaxy in the aura of the end, your psionic aura. You will then be permitted to rest in a perfected universe. Should you fail, the reckoning will consume you. And of course, that's probably going to be like the reckoning that you would have in any other end of the cycle situation that we've had in the past, where your empire basically implodes. Not good at all. The Endbringers are not the only way to form a covenant with the end of the cycle. The old way of encountering them conventionally still exists. This will also switch your Shroud UI over to the ticking clock, but will not change your cycle. So even regular empires who are diving into the Shroud could end up becoming enthralled by the end of the cycle, thus turning into pretty much genocidal monsters that want to blanket the entire galaxy in the aura of the end and retire to a perfected universe, to no longer be persecuted by the voice from beyond. I absolutely have to say that this sounds fantastic. In essence, it seems like we've had a crisis, basically. We've had a player crisis from this DLC, but it's not called a player crisis. Not only that, you could possibly take the crisis, the Nemesis crisis, alongside having a covenant with the end of the cycle, and thus do both. Trying to either leave the galaxy with Nemesis or end it with Aura of the End. A lot of apocalyptic stuff now at our fingertips, ladies and gentlemen. Let's dive now into one of the new civics, Entropy Drinkers. The Entropy Drinkers civic enables the transfer of life energy from the populace to the Empire's leaders. This will block all ascension paths except for psionic ascension, meaning that you cannot become cybernetic or you cannot become synthetic, because let's not forget here, this is available to also machine intelligence empires and hives. Every type of empire can take Entropy Drinkers or one of the equivalents. Leader, take my energy. That is the caption. This enables the following edicts: Energy Drain, Sanguine Council, and Convergence of Will. You can also construct the Leeching Tower, and leaders will all start with the Psychic trait. You've got some bad modifiers that come alongside this though. Minus 10% resources from jobs, research speed, pop growth speed, and mechanical pop assembly speed. Ouch. You will be getting plus 50% leader lifespan and minus 50% leader upkeep, so your leaders will live long and cheap lives. There's also a Counselor position, Energy Curator, that gives you 5% leadership experience gain and Empire energy generation per 100 pops of plus 0.02%. So if you have 1,000 pops in your Empire, you'll get plus 0.2% energy monthly. I'm guessing if you have 10,000 pops in your Empire, that's plus 2% energy monthly. 50,000 pops, which is quite a lot, and you're looking at plus 10% energy monthly. It's all right. I don't think that's great. I'd probably prefer the trade income from the executive thrall manager you get with corporate vampires, and of course, the machine intelligence and hive civics do not have a counselor position that is added there. A lot of the power of this all comes, I believe, from those edicts. The Convergence of Will edict has both Unity and Zro upkeep. So what have we got? Energy Drain. Lasts until you cancel it. Your leaders will never die of old age. The vampiric monsters will suck the life force out of your population at the tune of about 36% of your pop growth speed. Yikes, that's a lot. But they will never ever die. Sanguine Council, this seems like the most usable of the edicts, to be perfectly honest. It grants you 25% council agenda speed, very good maybe at the start of the game if you're trying to rush out some agendas to get a leg up. This comes at the cost of minus 16% pop growth speed. Losing that pop growth speed, not great, but it's not a massive reduction, so maybe it could be worth it to run this for just 1 or 2 edicts. The last edict is Convergence of Will here, giving you plus 3 effective counselor skill level, that is to every single counselor in your council, but you do lose minus 56% pop growth speed. Perhaps if you can get your hands on some robots, get lots of robots being built, though I'm already going to have to admit here, you cannot synthetically or cybernetically ascend, so you're not going to get a massive amount of robot assembly anyway, but maybe you can offset that minus 56% for the plus 3 effective skill. Or perhaps you've already got your empire as large as you need it to be, you're going to bring in new pops through conquest, and you're going to run all of these edicts, which are going to total up to more than minus 100% pop growth speed, and just get all the benefits and hope you don't need more population. This could be a very unique playstyle overall, sacrificing pop growth speed for some short-term gains, or eventually things like energy drain keeping your most powerful leaders alive at the expense of your population. If you ever turn that off, of course, they will crumble to dust, just like the bad guy in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Proxy Wars is a new mechanic coming to Stellaris with Shadows of the Shroud. They allow empires to incite conflict between other civilizations via the diplomacy menu. This requires high trust or infiltration with potential diplomatic consequences if it is discovered what you've been doing. How do we get access to Proxy Wars? Well, one way it seems is through the Subterfuge Tradition Tree. The finisher effect for Subterfuge now will be gaining access to Proxy Wars. There is one other way of gaining access, we'll see that in a moment, and that is through the new civic secret societies. As mentioned before, Proxy Wars require trust or infiltration and some influence in order to trigger. When starting a proxy war, you can select the CB you wish to manipulate the attacker into using, though some cost more trust or infiltration and influence than others. Here we can see a proxy war being initiated between the Vuxrak Commerce League, I think, and the Miravandian Empire. We, the player in this, are the Mengentian Assembly of Systems, and we're going to be spending 60 influence and 30 trust to give them a conquest war. Wars waged from hostile rumors and hidden whispers, reads the text. Upon victory, the attacker gains control of any claimed systems and generates 33% less threat for each conquered system. Vuxrak Commerce League's trust towards us goes down by 30. In general, when manipulating other nations, it's best to select a cause for war that corresponds with their inherent biases and desires, so that they seek to achieve their war goals rather than accepting a status quo early. Secret Society civics grant earlier access to proxy wars and introduce covert actors who influence galactic affairs from the shadows. Let's find out more now about secret societies. This civic is only available to regular empires and corporate empires. Clandestine factions will emerge after contacting other empires. You start with the ability to conduct proxy wars right from the get-go. Bureaucrats will produce unity per active and successful proxy war. On top of that, we start in first contact with two neighboring empires, so we should quite quickly get access to these clandestine factions. Infiltration level gathered on empires after first contact is plus 40. Given what we saw in the previous image, it costs at least 30 intel, or 30 trust I should say, to start a proxy war. So I'm guessing having 40 intel from the get-go lets us make contact and then push them into a fight. Proxy war influence cost minus 25%, operations cost minus 50%, available envoys plus 1, and encryption plus 1. This is, I think, going to be the Subterfuge Civic. This is going to give you lots and lots of very powerful bonuses, not least of which is the council position, plus 1 base intel, plus 1% diplo weight, and 2.5% operation speed per level of the leader you place there. You could combine this with something like Cutthroat Politics and then go down the Psionic Ascension path for loads and loads of decryption and encryption. So the mysterious factions are revealed upon establishing communications with contacts, the contacts you start the game with. Each faction is driven by priorities markedly different from standard factions. We can see here that the names of these factions are the Curtain, the Masquerade, and the Great Dance. Their issues are wide-ranging but entirely nonsensical, possibly a bit like the Manifesti. Careful footwalk, whispers in the dark, the right choice. It does look like from the approval meter though, it's not too hard to make them happy. The Grand Dance exercises a carefully choreographed series of steps and turns designed to weave their way through political environments while remaining untouched. They are xenophilic, and the bonuses these factions give are very interesting. One here seeming to give more diplo weight, another one giving, I think that's infiltration speed, and a final one giving plus 7% trust growth, I'm going to say, though it maybe could be intel. No, that's not intel, that's trust growth, I think. Overall, I'm really glad that they have included a brand new espionage thing you can do, proxy wars. I feel the espionage system needs more for it to feel impactful enough for this civic to really be worthwhile, though of course it's still nice to know more about your enemies. Exactly how powerful proxy wars are, we don't yet know. But I'm guessing you cannot start a proxy war between two nations that are already in a federation, in a non-aggression pact, or in a defensive pact, or guaranteeing each other's independence. That would be a little bit overpowered. Still, if a proxy war can allow you to poke two relatively equal power empires to go to war with each other, that could leave you to divide and conquer the spoils of what is left. And I am definitely here for that. If you'd like to pick up Shadows of the Shroud or anything else from the Paradox Interactive Store and also support this channel, don't forget you can use our link down in the description or use the code MONTUPLAYS over at the checkout. If you want to know more about how we can deal with the end of the cycle and the Endbringers origin, you'll need to know more about the brand new anti-psionic Mind Warders origin and enclave. To find out that, click the video on screen now.